what was kind of the purpose for running Echoes on the side?
So Ragefest Echoes exists basically to accommodate people who couldn't make it to Ragefest 5. Like, a couple people told me, hey, Mark, there's a lot of people who want to submit to Ragefest 5, but they don't think they can meet the deadline. And since I felt like there was a significant enough number of people that wanted to submit to the contest, and because I wasn't sure when I would do another contest, I was like, alright, you know what? Let's just have a second, 1 month deadline contest, so that they can just put their submissions in that instead, and I'll play them. So that everybody has a good enough opportunity to have their stuff played.
Anyways, the first submission of Echoes was one that I made. Now, me wanting to be original and submit at least something, I decided to make the very bold move of using Fire Emblem 1 as the engine for the submission. As a result, it's nothing at all fancy, just a couple of dumb puzzles using the engine, and confirmation that you can in fact hack Fire Emblem 1 now, as if anyone wanted to.
Ephraim 225, you came up with Remembering Akania, and
that was such a token hack. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, basically the idea of Remembering Akania is that it's a Fire Emblem hack in Fire Emblem 1, the first Fire Emblem, the shitty one. The shittiest Fire Emblem you could have chosen, aside from FE2. Oh, snap! Shots fired! But yeah,
I don't even think it's that bad if you turn on the emulator turbo, but...
Well, even then, even if you copy and pasted the level design and enemy placement of this into FE7, I still don't think it would have been particularly good, simply because the enemies aren't very threatening, and, there's no real, identity to the chapters. You just fight enemies, you go to the boss, and you win, and that's about it. It's only with Chapter 3 that I felt had a real identity to it, because you had to, get the priest from the bottom left side of the chapter, the map, protect her, and get her over to Marth so that she can warp him to the throne, because that's the only way to reach it. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea. But aside from that, it was not a standout submission, even if you were to put it in FE7 or some other better engine.
And then there was Sophia's Rectal Exam by X Jake the Hentai X. Yes, you read that right. Fire Emblems are a lot like rectal exams, don't you know? A long pole goes up your rear end and a doctor gives you orange juice. Based on... okay. Based on a faked Ragefest 4 screenshot, this rectal exam is about as unpleasant as the real deal. I mean, it's called rectal exam. How can you not laugh at it? Sophia's not even in this submission, it's all racing.
And then there's Jake the Hentai, Sophia's Rectal Exam. Alright, so, I'm gonna spoil something right here. Jake the Hentai is Ponage Kirby.
What? You're kidding me.
Fucking, there's the twist. Sophia's Rectal Exam was created by Ponage Kirby. She chose Jake the Hentai because a while ago, back in Ragefest 4, I posted an image, a joke image, saying that, here's a picture of Ragefest 5's submission roster. And one of the submissions was called Sophia's Rectal Exam, and it was made by a guy named Jake the Hendrix. And so Ponage Kirby saw that image and was like, that's hilarious, let's actually make a submission called Sophia's Rectal Exam, and make it by Jake the Hentai instead.
Wow. Ponage Kirby, you're crazy.
I know, right? Ponage, I love Ponage Kirby. Ponage Kirby is just... What a fucking troll. What a fucking monster. She is definitely the villain of Ragefest, if there ever was one.
Moving on to super generic Ragefest adventure by Pontagonist. The title is pretty accurate there too. Sorry, Pontagonist. I guess a lot of people were like me and just wanted to put something, anything out there. It doesn't always work out so well. Not as long as Mark managed to make something of it, though. Everything's cool on my end.
Then there was Pontagonist with his super generic Ragefest adventure. It was not a noteworthy submission. It was in the category of rush submissions as opposed to gimmick submissions.
True to its title.
Yeah.
Now we have one from a newcomer named Maruhai. Their submission is written in Japanese that reads, "If you translate this, please fuck yourself." Well, gee, someone's feeling malicious. Maybe I shouldn't talk about your submission in my video then. It's bugged anyways.
Then there was Maruhai's Japanese fucking submission name, which translates to, "If you translate this, please fuck yourself." And that was a pretty just non-noteworthy submission whatsoever. But he made it in like a very short amount of time. I think it was like a week or like 2 days or something. He just rushed it straight out super hard.
Wheel of Misfortune by Xlelius? Zalelius? Well, someone will correct me on this. This one has a gimmick involving randomized events, but it's not technically randomized because you can manipulate events. It's seriously annoying to actually figure this out on your own, though. The submission doesn't end up being that noteworthy.
And yeah, so there's that. And then there's Wheel of Misfortune by Zlelius, where I brought Alware with me. And it was a funny submission to do live, and I felt that the scripted video that I did for part 2 was one of the best videos I've ever made. So, there you go.
Recycled Conflict by Dat Boy Matthew follows a pretty similar pattern.
And then, there's Recycled Conflict by Dat Boy Matthew, where basically the whole premise of the submission is that, hey, let's take Tactical Nonsense and recycle all of its assets to make a new submission. And on top of that, Dat Boy Matthew challenged himself to use the same map for the whole submission, but change it up simply with clever enemy placement. And it really shows you just like how much a chapter can change just from the enemy placement. I believe I had a theory a while ago where like you can have a completely plain map, like with just grass tiles the whole way through, and you can make that interesting if you just make the enemy placement good. And Dat Boy Matthew fucking proved my theory right. Because that whole submission is just, there's 2 different paths, and they're just complete, they're just rock, like, floor tiles. There's no special, like, terrain or anything. It's just a straight hallway. But he makes it interesting by placing the enemies in really interesting ways. And there you go. Fucking, there's Ragefest Echoes.
Meanwhile, Circles Everywhere gave us a cross between Fire Emblem and Ace Attorney with his submission, Asker Attorney Investigations. The goal is simple. Figure out who poisoned Dorcas's mutton. I approve of this reference to the first American Fire Emblem commercial. He even programmed Mila's Turn Wheel, a mechanic introduced in Fire Emblem Echoes. Have I mentioned Circles is crazy at programming?
I think so far it's been going pretty well. Yeah, like, it started with Circles Everywhere submission, which was Asker Attorney Investigation. And, that actually got a shitload of views, probably because it had crossover appeal because of Fire Emblem Heroes and Ace Attorney and shit. That was a great submission.
He programmed Mila's Turn Wheel, enough said.
Yeah. It was also the first submission to, like, explicitly implement skills and design around them. I mean, we had Julius's Revenge from Ragefest 5, but that really didn't use the skills that much, and plus you could just break the whole chapter by using Julius. But Circles Everywhere, when he designed this submission, he very carefully designed around skills. And it was just a very well-designed submission in general, because the enemy placement was good, and it really made you think. The writing was really terrible, though. It made absolutely no sense, and none of the characters were interesting.
Know who else is crazy at programming? Tequila and his submission, Dogs of War. The intro certainly makes that clear. Different text sound effects, italics, old school RuneScape music. This is already looking good. The map itself features puzzles involving moving statues and has the player only able to move in one direction, something like an ice floor puzzle in Pokemon. It's really cool. Maybe out of place for Fire Emblem, but then Ragefest Echoes itself is anything but orthodox.
Tequila had Dogs of War, which was a gimmick submission. The big theme with Ragefest Echoes is that it has gimmick submissions and rushed submissions. Basically, the rush submissions were people who were, who already submitted to Ragefest 5 and were like, you know what, I'm just going to churn out another one real quick. And most of them ended up not being very good submissions, except for Dat Boy Matthews's, which, to my surprise, is around the same quality as Tactical Nonsense. I mean, the story is not as good, but that's simply because it's less ambitious, not because of the quality of the writing. But yeah, like Tequila Dogs of War, it's basically like an ice floor puzzle. Like, think Pokemon Silver and Gold, where you're in the ice cave, except it's like turn-based, and you have to watch out for ninja ducks.
So it's all coming to a close, and are you just kind of like burnt out on Ragefest, or is it like going as far as you think it'll go now?
Well, people are always going to be able to push the envelope and like do new, like fresh new ideas. I believe that there is plenty of room for more contests in the future if I ever did them. Like, people, I don't believe that the contest has like met its potential. I still feel like there's plenty more we could go if I were to continue it. It's just, like, I spend a lot of time like editing the videos, and I don't make a lot of money, and I've pretty much met my goal that I originally had with, like, back when I did Ragefest 1, my goal was, let's get people to make hacks. Let's get people to be productive. Fast forward several years later, lots of people are productive in the community. There are tons of people who are like, Mark, you inspired me to get into Fire Emblem hacking, including some very important figures in the community, like the creator of Effie Builder. He said, he actually told me in a DM that because of my map tutorial video that I made on YouTube, which I guess is not Ragefest, but because of that video, he was able to figure out how to make maps in Fire Emblem, and that allowed him to continue working on, like, Effie Builder or something like that. I was so humbled by that. And, I went into the Effie Universe chat, and a bunch of people were like, yeah, like, a lot of us are here Fire Emblem hacking because of you. Like, you helped create this community. And that's when I was like, you know what? I think I've achieved my goal. I don't really know what I'm doing this for, because I'm not making enough money, and I feel like what motivates me to make videos is just seeing the comments and, like, getting that appreciation and feedback. I didn't feel like I was getting enough of that after a while. I felt like people didn't really appreciate what I was doing anymore, so I was just like, what's the point? It's not fun anymore. And, I already achieved my goal. So basically at this point I'm just doing it out of habit. Like, just a fucking robot doing something it was taught to do. And that's when I was like, you know what? I think I need to just call it quits. People will be sad, but I'll be replaced. Like, because there are plenty of Let's Players out there. They'll probably...
just a moment there, just a moment. Nobody can replace Marky Joe.
I mean...
Not a chance.
Look, I'm just saying, man, somebody else could easily make a contest where it's like, oh, send me Fire Emblem hacks that are frustrating, and then they could get a following. Like, that's how I feel. Obviously, people don't want to do that. Like, Manx told me he would never start a contest like Ragefest, 1, because he doesn't want to get frustrated, and 2, because he feels that that's my thing. Like, people obviously have a lot of respect for Ragefest and don't want to take it from me, but my take on it is just that, like, we have to get people motivated to make Fire Emblem hacks. Because if we want Fire Emblem hacks, we have to, motivate them to do it. We gotta give them a reason to, and Let's Playing people's stuff, that gets people to do stuff. And I just don't want people to be slowed down by, like, tradition and like, tradition. I want it to slow down the community, I guess. I hope that the community continues to grow, even without me, and at some point, like, maybe I'll, like, after enough time, I'll change my mind about some things. I'm definitely not going to do any more Ragefest, but I might do contests similar to Ragefest, but only if I change my mind. Like, if I... Like, maybe 6 months from now, if I'm like, you know what, I enjoy doing contests again, and I'm refreshed, maybe then I'll start another contest. Or maybe I'll just do something else. I mean, there's plenty of other projects I want to do, like make my own like Fire Emblem hacks or SRPG studio shit, or just like work on the website I'm working on right now, where people can upload hacks and shit. You know, the sky's the limit, you know, but you gotta make sacrifices.
You just gotta move forward and see what's there, right?
Yeah,
you just gotta move forward and see what's there.
You gotta make sacrifices. Like, I can't do everything, so I gotta choose. So, I mean, that's kind of a downer statement, but look, point is, I'm happy that Ragefest has been so successful. I'm happy that it's made so many people happy and inspired them. And I hope people continue to inspire each other. There you go. Happy statement.
Ragefest has been one hell of a ride. While I can't really put my finger on the impact the contests have had on the Fire Emblem hacking community, here are a few things I can put in perspective. Without Ragefest, I would have not have created my first ROM hack, and I wouldn't have gotten the creative inspiration or experience that would lead me to eventually develop my own games, which I will now take the opportunity to shill. Please go and see them. And many come to me saying that my Ragefest works inspired them to hack too. I know that sounds like a joke, but people have said that to me in the past. Going forward, I can only hope that newcomers to the hacking scene, or even game development in general, give Ragefest a look and draw inspiration from it the way we did, or at least get a few good laughs. Entertainment is what this was all about at the end of the day. Well, that and pissing off Marky Joe, that's always priceless. Thank you, Marky Joe, for hosting the contest and suffering for our pleasure. Thank you, Ragefest contestants, for generating mostly cool stuff for us to enjoy playing and watching. And thank you, Mark's viewers, my viewers, everyone who watches this video through to the end. What is a performance without an audience? Every view we get makes all our work worthwhile in the end. Will there be another Ragefest or a successor to it? Only time will tell. Thank you once again, everyone. And remember, money is really important. If you don't have it, your weapons will rust. And you can't fight without your weapons.
No!
It's Marky Joe, he's arrived from his golden chariot. And down he walks the road, brow saying, what the hell, you got Marky Joe? These amber thongs just don't do it for me.